You're watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Sonov, and let's take a look at today's top stories. Minneapolis shooting draws heavy criticism from former presidents. Donald Trump says he's reviewing the incident. European nations are doubling down on wind power, signing a major North Sea clean energy deal today. And at least 11 dead and 800,000 without power as major winter storm hits the United States and Canada. Tensions are escalating in the U.S. city of Minneapolis after a U.S. citizen was shot dead by a federal immigration agent. The second fatal incident of its kind this month. The killing has triggered widespread protests, strong criticism, and legal action by state authorities. Recently, U.S. President Donald Trump said that he's sending White House border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota. Here is more on that story.
Immigration enforcement operations in Minneapolis are under renewed scrutiny after a U.S. citizen was shot and killed by federal agents, the second fatal shooting linked to immigration operations in the city this month. 37-year-old Alex Pretty, an intensive care nurse, was killed on Saturday during a confrontation with immigration officers. The shooting sparked protests, prompted the deployment of the National Guard, and deepened tensions between state and federal authorities. Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz accused the federal government of escalating violence and demanded the withdrawal of immigration agents.
So now we've got two Minnesotans dead. We didn't had time to start telling Renee's story of a poet and a mother and a bright spirit, and now we're telling Alex's story. So my question is, what's the plan, Donald Trump? What is the plan? What do we need to do to get these federal agents out of our state? You thought fear, violence, and chaos is what you wanted from us, and you clearly underestimated the people of this state and nation.
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison said legal action was being taken to halt the operation.
Minneapolis is a precursor to a whole lot of other places that they have their eye on right here, right now, including Maine and several other states. If we don't stop this behavior here, it will only expand, and it won't be good for anyone in our country.
U.S. President Donald Trump defended his administration's immigration crackdown, saying the operation would continue despite criticism. In a social media post, Trump blamed Democratic-led states and cities for unrest and said the deaths of two U.S. citizens were the result of what he called Democrat-ensued chaos. Federal authorities said the agent acted in self-defense, claiming Pretty brandished a firearm, an account disputed by bystander video footage reviewed by Reuters, which appears to show him holding a phone. Border Patrol officials said enforcement operations would continue.
Our Title VIII immigration mission continues, unabated, here in Minneapolis, despite yesterday's tragedy that was preventable by folks making better choices, politicians, journalists, and would-be anarchists and rioters.
Hundreds of protesters later gathered in Minneapolis despite sub-zero temperatures, with demonstrations also reported in other U.S. cities. Pretty's death follows the fatal shooting of another Minnesota resident, Renee Good, earlier this month during federal immigration operations.
Diplomatic efforts between Russia and Ukraine are back in the spotlight after a second round of talks in Abu Dhabi ended without a breakthrough. Moscow has flatly rejected further dialogue with the EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas. Meanwhile, Kiev claims that a major security deal with the United States is now finalized and is simply awaiting a signature.
International talks to end the conflict are once again at a standstill. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said Moscow will not engage in talks with EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas. Russia will simply wait for her to leave office. The remarks came after the talks in Abu Dhabi ended without a deal.
How can you discuss anything with Kaja Kallas? We will never discuss anything with her, nor will the Americans discuss anything with her. And that is obvious. What can we do? We just have to wait until she leaves, or given everything that is going on, EU's leadership, name anyone.
The Kremlin spokesman also said Russia is closely watching US plans for the Golden Dome missile defense system. He emphasized the strategic importance of Greenland.
Of course, it's a strategic location in terms of security. I don't want to speak on who can threaten Greenland, but it has a lot of importance regarding strategic stability and security.
And on the other hand, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said at a press conference in Vilnius that the US security guarantees for Ukraine are fully ready. Kyiv is now waiting for the date and location for the document to be signed. Zelensky said the document will go through ratification in both the US Congress and the Ukrainian Parliament, and he stressed that European security guarantees are also crucial.
Technically, Ukraine will be ready in the first half of 2026 to open all clusters to negotiate EU membership. Will be fully technically ready for EU membership in 2027 in our view, and we want a specific date in our agreement on ending the war with Russia, so that all sides then adhere to these agreements, including the aggressor, who would sign a 20-point plan if such a moment comes, so that no one can block us again afterwards.
The president also said he is demanding a specific date for the end of the war, that the aggressor must sign a 20-point plan, and that pressure through sanctions should continue.
I hope America will not reduce pressure on Russia over this war for the sake of diplomacy. Europe must be resolute as well. To continue pressure, sanctions pressure on Russia, Russian tankers transporting oil, including through the Baltic Sea, must be stopped.
It is worth noting that on January 23rd and 24th, Ukraine and Russia held their first trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi. The meeting, attended by US mediators, discussed Washington's framework for ending the war, but no agreement was reached.
A new Palestinian committee is set to take charge of Gaza's temporary administration. Residents hope it will bring much-needed relief and help rebuild the war-torn region.
Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are looking to the newly formed National Committee for the Administration of Gaza to help alleviate the humanitarian crisis and rebuild the enclave after months of war. The technocratic committee, created on January 16th, is set to take over temporary administration, with support from both Hamas and the Palestinian presidency.
It is not the best of options, but it is the only option left for the Palestinian people. There are two aspects, the humanitarian aspect and the political aspect. The technocratic committee has nothing to do with the issue of self-determination or political rights, which is in fact a very serious issue, as Palestinians may wake up in the future to find themselves reduced to a mere humanitarian and reconstruction issue.
Some residents say the committee offers a first step toward relief and reconstruction.
We support Palestinian consensus wherever it may be, and we seek to establish this committee as a fundamental body because it is the only body that represents us as the Palestinian people and feels the pain of residents who have been crushed by war. We need it, at least as a first step, to prove to the world that Palestinians are capable of managing their own affairs, paving the way for reconstruction, a complete end to the war, and the withdrawal of the Israeli occupation.
While the committee focuses on humanitarian and administrative matters, political and self-determination issues remain unresolved. Despite this, Gazans hope the new body will pave the way for reconstruction, relief, and a more stable future.
A News has received a response from the German government following a report on hundreds of criminal cases linked to online insults against the Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Officials say the complaints were filed before he took office and that the Chancellor no longer initiates such cases.
A report by Welt am Sonntag has focused attention on how Germany's legal system deals with online insults aimed at senior politicians. The article details how Chancellor Friedrich Merz filed hundreds of criminal complaints for insult between 2021 and 2025, while serving as opposition leader and CDU chairman. According to documents cited by the newspaper, some of those complaints led to police investigations and, in several cases, house searches. The report says the cases were often pursued with the help of a private legal service that scans online content for potential offences. Legal experts quoted in the article question whether such measures were proportionate and warn of possible implications for freedom of expression. Following the report, A News contacted the German federal government for clarification. In a written response, a government spokesperson said that since Merz became Chancellor, the Federal Chancellery has received more than 190 inquiries from police and prosecutors about potentially criminal statements made against him. The spokesperson stressed that no criminal complaints have been filed by the Chancellery in any of these cases. While the Chancellor's office does not object to investigations initiated by law enforcement, it says it does not initiate proceedings itself. The statement sets out the government's current handling of such matters, distinct from actions taken before Merz entered office.
At least 11 people have been killed and a dozen others injured after gunmen opened fire at a soccer match in Salamanca, Mexico. The attack occurred on Sunday at a local sports field with a woman and a child among the wounded. Mayor Cesar Prieto described the shooting as regrettable and cowardly, saying it reflects a broader wave of violence in the city. Security forces were quickly deployed and authorities have launched an investigation into the incident. Gold has hit a record high, climbing above $5,000 an ounce as investors sought safety amid rising geopolitical tensions. Spot gold rose 0.75% to just over $5,019 per ounce, while U.S. futures for February delivery gained 0.84%. Silver also strengthened up 2.5% to $105 an ounce. The rise comes as tensions between the United States and NATO over Greenland fuel concerns about financial and geopolitical uncertainty, driving demand for the safe haven metal. European countries, including the UK, Germany and Denmark, are set to sign a clean energy agreement in Hamburg on Monday. The Hamburg Declaration commits European countries to delivering 100 gigawatts of offshore wind power through joint projects in the North Sea. It's aiming to boost energy security and cut reliance on fossil fuels via a cross-border power grid. The deal builds on a 2023 pledge by North Sea nations to reach 300 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity by 2050. It comes as US President Donald Trump renews criticism of green energy, highlighting Europe's continued commitment to wind power. A powerful winter storm is hitting the United States and Canada, bringing deadly cold, heavy snow and widespread disruption. At least 11 people have died, with power outages, flight cancellations and emergency warnings across both countries.
At least 11 people have died as a severe winter storm sweeps across the United States. Bitter cold, heavy snow and ice have left over 800,000 homes and businesses without power and forced the cancellation of more than 17,000 flights. Dangerous cold and hazardous travel are expected to last through Monday, with emergency declarations in over a dozen states. In New York, residents battled strong winds and near whiteout conditions. Mayor Zoran Mamdani ordered schools to close, with classes moving online on Monday and warming centers to open. Temperatures in other parts of New York State plunged to minus 34 degrees Celsius in Watertown and minus 49 in Copenhagen. Further south, families in North Carolina made the most of a rare snowfall, with children sledging through quiet, snow-covered streets. Local reports say it has been more than 10 years since the city last saw snow on this scale. The storm also blanketed Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. In Oklahoma City, frozen ponds, near-empty streets, and widespread flight cancellations highlighted the impact as airport crews worked to de-ice aircraft.
You can see there's guys in those buckets.
In Tulsa, Oklahoma, one man has been going above and beyond to help. Ryan Duvall spent the weekend driving a 40-year-old fire engine through the city, picking up people exposed to the cold and taking them to warming shelters.
I just saw a need for getting people out of the cold. The -20 temperatures really hit me hard, so I know someone staying outside, I wouldn't be able to survive it, so I'm just out here getting those folks off the street.
As United States, heavy snow also continued to cover Canada as residents were urged to stay indoors. With strong winds, parked cars and streets completely covered with snow in capital city Toronto. Weather authorities warned over 60 centimetres of snow could accumulate in parts of Toronto, with hazardous winter storm conditions to continue overnight. Environment Canada issued an orange warning for most of Saskatchewan province, where the agency said many towns in the province have broken cold weather records.
Now we have a break. After the break, we'll take a look at the major stories from the region. Welcome back to A News. Now let's take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. Heavy snow and rain have killed at least 61 people and injured more than 100 across Afghanistan in the past 4 days, as severe winter weather continues to batter the country, destroying hundreds of homes and cutting off remote communities. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has the latest from Kabul.
Afghanistan is grappling with the deadly impact of extreme winter weather, as heavy snowfall and rainfall across the country have claimed at least 61 lives and left over 110 others injured in the past 4 days. The figures were confirmed on Sunday by the National Disaster Management Authority. Its spokesperson Yusuf Hamad said that at least 458 homes have been completely or partially destroyed, while hundreds of animals have been perished in at least 15 of Afghanistan's 34 provinces. He warned that the numbers could still rise as authorities continue to gather information from affected areas and struggle to reach villages cut off from snow-blocked roads and floodings. The impact of such disaster has been amplified by decades of conflict, weak infrastructure, widespread poverty, and deforestation, alongside with the growing effects of climate change. Many homes, particularly in rural areas, are built from mud, offering little protection against heavy snowfall or sudden downpours. Earlier this month, the United Nations warned that Afghanistan would remain one of the world's largest humanitarian crises in 2026. For now, authorities say the focus remains on reopening roads, delivering emergency assistance, and preventing further loss of life as winter conditions continue to pose a serious threat. Tamim Bahis in Kabul, A News.
Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar visits Azerbaijan on Monday. During the visit, he was received by President Ilham Aliyev. The talks focused on expanding cooperation in key areas, including trade, energy, and technology, and highlighted strong ties between the two countries.
President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev met Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar in Baku on Monday. The sides discussed the development of Azerbaijan-Israel relations. They recalled recent talks between the presidents of Azerbaijan and Israel in Davos. The meeting focused on cooperation in trade, energy, tourism, agriculture, water management, high technologies and artificial intelligence. Both sides said regular mutual visits help strengthen relations. The role of the Azerbaijan-Israel Intergovernmental Commission was also noted. It was mentioned that its latest meeting had taken place recently. Gideon Saar said he was visiting Azerbaijan with representatives of major business circles. The minister said the Azerbaijan-Israel Business Forum would help expand economic and trade ties. Saar also thanked President Aliyev for state support for the Jewish community in Azerbaijan. During his visit, the minister met leaders of the Jewish community in Baku. In a post on his Telegram channel, he said about 30,000 Jews live in Azerbaijan alongside the Muslim population, in an atmosphere of religious tolerance and freedom of worship. Saar said Azerbaijan is an example of a Muslim-majority country that ensures the safety and well-being of its Jewish community. He added that Jews living in Azerbaijan and those who have moved to Israel form a strong base for relations between the two countries. Gideon Saar said these ties will continue to grow.
Israel and Azerbaijan report tangible progress in economic cooperation, citing increased trade volumes, expanding energy collaboration, and stronger business engagement. During the Israeli foreign minister's visit to Baku, the top diplomats said at a joint press conference that talks focused on consolidating existing projects and advancing new areas of bilateral investment and cooperation.
Economic cooperation between Israel and Azerbaijan is entering a new stage, driven by growing trade, investment and energy ties. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said the two countries have become pillars of stability, with advanced economies and a strategic partnership built over more than 30 years. After talks in Baku, Azerbaijani Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov said the sides discussed expanding economic cooperation, reviewed ongoing agreements and explored new opportunities for long-term cooperation.
During the minister's visit to Baku, a large delegation of business representatives is accompanying him, and a bilateral business forum between the two countries has been underway since this morning. In the second half of the day, the minister and the co-chair of the Intergovernmental Commission from Azerbaijan, the Minister of Economy, will jointly participate in the forum and hold meetings with members of the business community. The most recent meeting of the Economic Intergovernmental Commission was held in Israel in November last year. We are satisfied with the cooperation achieved in the economic sphere.
He highlighted that 124 Israeli companies are actively operating in Azerbaijan and described energy as the leading area of cooperation. Both sides underlined 2025 as a significant year, noting that SOCAR acquired a 10% stake in Israel's Tamar gas field, marking Azerbaijan's first direct investment in a major Israeli energy project.
I arrived today with a high-level economic and business delegation. It includes over 40 representatives from our economic organizations and water, cyber, health, security, agriculture, and other companies. We want to invest in Azerbaijan and share our knowledge and expertise. Our energy cooperation is especially significant. You mentioned, Mr. Minister, that your state-owned company, SOCAR, acquired 10% of Israel's Tamar gas field. This is surely an expression of the trust and mutual benefit of our relations.
Azerbaijani Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov said the Alat Free Economic Zone was presented as a key platform for Israeli investors and a gateway to Central Asian markets. He said tourism is one of the most successful areas of cooperation. Around 60,000 Israeli tourists visited Azerbaijan last year. In the first 11 months of 2025, the number of visitors more than doubled compared to all of 2024. Bayramov added that tourism growth is supported by 20 direct flights per week between the two countries, with plans to increase flights further.
Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said that joint actions by Israel and the United States had significantly set back Iran's nuclear ambitions and contributed to regional security. During the press conference in Baku, he also expressed deep concern over the crackdown on citizens in Iran and warned of the risks posed if the country were to gain access to nuclear weapons.
There is a massacre in Iran of unimaginable proportions. It's a massacre of a nation by the regime that rules it. If this is how they act toward their own people, how should they be expected to act toward other countries? The world's most extreme regime must never, ever be allowed to obtain the world's most dangerous weapon, a weapon of mass destruction, nuclear weapon.
Iranian authorities have unveiled a mural in capital Tehran showcasing strike on the U.S. aircraft carrier and its burning flag in a sharp warning against an impending attack on the Islamic Republic as the Tehran-Washington impasse is inching toward a military standoff.
A large billboard has been installed in Iran's capital, Tehran, shortly after U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he is moving warships to the Middle East just in case he wants to take action against Iran. The mural, which was set up in downtown Enqilab Square on Sunday, displays in graphics a targeted U.S. Navy ship in white stars against a blue background, as well as the U.S. flag in red flaming stripes. A slogan in English and Persian across its corner reads, "If you sow the wind, you will reap the whirlwind," in an apparent strong warning to the United States. Last week, Trump said aboard Air Force One that the U.S. is watching Iran and is moving the ships towards the country just in case he decides to take action. Iranian officials have vowed strong retaliation in the event of a U.S. military action as USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier approaches toward Iran amid forces buildup at U.S. bases in the Middle East. Earlier, Deputy Commander of Iran's Islamic Revolution Guards, Brigadier General Ahmad Vahidi, said today Iran is more prepared than during the 12-day Israeli-U.S. war last June. Other military generals have also warned the U.S. and Israel to avoid any miscalculation, saying that Iranian forces are more ready than ever with their finger on the trigger. Analysts are voicing concern over a likely Pearl Harbor-style preemptive strike by Iran by pounding U.S. interests in the region, targeting Israel, and shutting down of the Strait of Hormuz and flow of oil if Tehran comes to the conclusion that the U.S. military action is imminent. Turad Shiralilu, Tehran, A News.
The Asian Development Bank is considering a $50 million loan for a regional project aimed at upgrading border and transit infrastructure, with Azerbaijan identified as a key participant. The project spans multiple countries across Central and South Asia, with Azerbaijan's experience in digital customs systems and transport corridors cited as a model. ADB says the loan could be approved in 2028, with financing expected to come from the bank's own capital resources. Last year, Azerbaijan exported goods worth $788,800 to Armenia, according to Azerbaijan's State Customs Committee. In contrast, no exports were recorded from Armenia to Azerbaijan during the same period. The trade flow was driven mainly by fuel shipments. In December, Azerbaijan sent RON 95 gasoline to Armenia, followed in January by additional deliveries of RON 95 diesel and RON 92 gasoline. Kazakhstan and Mongolia are looking to deepen economic ties with ambitious plans to expand bilateral trade in the coming years. Talks between the two sides have focused on removing barriers and widening cooperation across key sectors. Our correspondent reports from Almaty.
Kazakhstan and Mongolia plan to increase their bilateral trade turnover to $500 million in the medium term. The growth is expected to come from expanded agricultural exports and stronger industrial cooperation between the two countries. The plans we discussed during intergovernmental talks focused on trade and economic cooperation, as well as on the gradual removal of trade and administrative barriers. The target has been set at the level of the two heads of state and is viewed as a key benchmark for bilateral relations. Officials say the increase will be driven by a wider range of mutual supplies and the development of joint cooperation projects. Particular attention is being paid to agriculture, where both sides see strong potential. Discussions included expanding exports of Kazakh agricultural products and supplying veterinary vaccines with the possibility of localizing production in Mongolia. Trade figures already point to steady growth. From January to November 2025, trade turnover between the two countries reached $121.5 million, up 5.5% compared to the same period last year. Exports accounted for $113 million, while imports stood at $8.6 million. The export structure is dominated by tobacco products, rapeseed, bakery and confectionery products, oilseeds, as well as engines and engineering products. To support continued growth, trade mission is planned to Mongolia to establish direct business contacts and showcase industrial zones and export opportunities. Fariza Kalimurzina, Almaty, A News.
Saudi Arabia is considering new investments in Uzbekistan, focusing on housing and transport infrastructure as part of expanding bilateral cooperation. Our correspondent has more from Tashkent.
Saudi Arabia is reviewing the possibility of financing two socially significant projects in Uzbekistan, totaling $138 million, covering affordable housing in Kyrgyz, Pakistan, and the reconstruction of damaged bridges on national roads. The projects were discussed by Uzbekistan's investment minister Laziz Kudratov and the head of the Saudi Fund for Development, Sultan Al-Marshad. The Saudi Fund for Development is already one of Uzbekistan's key financial partners. Its current portfolio includes 11 projects worth $287.4 million, covering healthcare, education, water supply, irrigation, housing and transport infrastructure. The new initiatives are now at the feasibility stage and are considered a priority due to their direct impact on living standards and regional connectivity. The housing project is expected to improve access to affordable accommodation in Kyrgyz, Pakistan, while the bridge repairs aim to strengthen transport safety and logistics efficiency. Uzbek and Saudi officials agreed to deepen cooperation further and expand joint initiatives in line with Uzbekistan's national development priorities, with a focus on long-term socially oriented investment. It is Sivili Rajab reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, A News.
Now we'll take a short break. Right after the break, we'll discuss the significance of Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar's visit to Baku and what it means for Azerbaijan-Israeli ties and regional diplomacy. Stay tuned. Welcome back to A News. Today in Baku, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar was warmly received by Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, highlighting expanding cooperation between Israel and Azerbaijan in trade, energy, technology, tourism and strategic partnership. Saar praised Azerbaijan's role in fostering peace in the South Caucasus and underscored the strength of bilateral ties rooted in mutual respect, economic synergy and shared regional interests. In his remarks, Gideon Saar also noted the stability and security enjoyed by Azerbaijan's Jewish community, a cornerstone of people-to-people relations between the two nations. Our focus now, what this visit means for regional diplomacy, economic integration and broader geopolitical dynamics. Joining us now is Maurice Hirsch from the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, speaking to us from Jerusalem. Mr. Hirsch, welcome to the program. Hi. So how would you characterize the trajectory of Azerbaijan-Israel relations in recent years, and what makes this visit by Foreign Minister Gideon Sar significant?
So I think what we've seen in the last few years is an expanding of all of the relationship between Azerbaijan and Israel, both diplomatically and economically. We've seen trade really expanding to tens of millions of dollars every single year. And there is the opportunity for much more development, both political and economic. Both sides can enjoy this relationship, and it can provide for really a gap in the different areas of the globe and all within the same geographical region almost, and it really has very great benefits for both sides.
Mr. Hirsch, what is the strategic importance of the expanding cooperation in trade, energy and technology between Israel and Azerbaijan?
So as we know, I think that Israel is a technology innovator. It's what we got up nation. It's the ability to take technology to a different level and to really mass produce it for all the different countries that we are working with and that we have relations with. This is something that we've seen all the way through Israel's long history in the tech, and it's something which, again, can be one of these fields through which Israel can really expand. Deepening relations with Azerbaijan, similarly with everything to do with cultural technology. This is also something that we are leaders in, and that we can bring different technology and different sides and different aspects to the benefit of our partners.
So in what ways does Azerbaijan's role in regional peace, particularly the normalization process with Armenia, impact Israel's foreign policy in the South Caucasus?
So again, Azerbaijan has played a very critical role as I would say, as a regional partner, as a regional negotiator, someone who has really a tremendous consideration for stability in the area, promoting this notion between the countries of the region, and that's something which, with all of the different people in the area, whether it be the Armenians or others, has been something which has been taken very seriously. Opportunity to have relations with it really does reach out to many other countries as well, and be one of those central bridges to the other population.
Mr. Hirsch, how does the presence of a long-standing Jewish community in Azerbaijan shape diplomatic and cultural relations between the two countries?
Well, so obviously, a long-standing Jewish community that hasn't been thrown out, that hasn't been the subject of confiscation properties. This is something where Jewish life can be allowed to progress, expand in a country that is friendly, that is cooperative, that is welcoming, and Azerbaijan for many, many, many years. And that's something which obviously we understand to be one of the greatest strengths of Azerbaijan, that it's able to look at its Jewish community, appreciate its Jewish community, and also protect its Jewish, which is not something that we've seen so extensively in the Western countries over the last few years.
So how might increased Israeli investment and participation by Israeli companies in Azerbaijan influence Azerbaijan's economy?
I think that once you have the great of Israel and Azerbaijan, this is something which can be used for both bilateral agreements, multilateral agreements. All of these have a kick-on effect. Israel's security industry is something which is tremendously growing and needs a lot of resources. This can be one of the aspects for which Azerbaijan could possibly benefit from. These are the different projects which are going on in Israel, some of them as a result of the war, some of them just as a result of just R&D that needs to be done in different fields. And that trade can really help, I think, both countries mutually.
So do you see Azerbaijan emerging as a potential bridge for trilateral cooperation between Israel, Azerbaijan and the United States, especially on security and economic fronts?
I do indeed. I think that Azerbaijan has until now played a very positive role and has a very positive role to play going forward. It's a country which a tremendous value, tremendous ability to really promote from a position of strength, from a position of capabilities and abilities, and it's not which can be replaced with many other countries in the region. It's a country which really has shown moral clarity going forward, and that's something which can be used again, as I said, to benefit of both of our countries.
Finally, Mr. Hirsch, to what extent do you expect this visit to contribute to ongoing peace-building efforts and normalization in the South Caucasus?
So I think that many of the international relations are based on not only interests, but interpersonal relationships. This is something which is critical for any type of diplomacy. And having visits like this of Minister Sar in Azerbaijan, and we hope that the Azeri officials will accept Minister Sar's invitation to reciprocate and come and visit in Israel, both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, and we can see those relations developing and deepening on this interpersonal level, which really does help allay many of the other obstacles possibly be seen when you have that trust in the other side, because you know them, you've experienced them, and on a first-hand basis. So that's obviously something which contributes to any relationship.
Thank you, Maurice Hirsch, for your valuable insights and for helping our audience understand the deeper implications of such a pivotal diplomatic visit. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now we'll take a short break. Right after the break, we'll discuss Georgia's 2036 economic strategy and Azerbaijan's role in a new ADB-led Eurasian connectivity push. See you shortly. Welcome back to A News. Georgia is gearing up for a major long-term strategic development plan through 2036, aiming to sustain at least 6 to 7% economic growth and tackle systemic challenges in education and infrastructure. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze says the plan will map clear priorities and concrete steps for the next decade while drawing on expertise from stakeholders and sector specialists. At the same time, the Asian Development Bank is advancing a regional initiative to modernize border crossings and logistics across Eurasia, a project that would see countries from Azerbaijan to China cooperating to improve connectivity and trade flow. Azerbaijan's role as a transit hub and leader in digitization and infrastructure reform is central to this effort. With us from Tbilisi, Georgia, to discuss the strategic, economic and regional implications is Dr. George Micedlishvili, Associate Professor at the European University. Mr. Micedlishvili, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
So, Micedlishvili, how significant is the Georgian government's decision to adopt an 11-year strategic development plan through 2036? And what does it signal about Georgia's economic ambitions?
Well, so far this is a statement. It remains to be seen how efficiently they will start the project. So the strategy. So this is basically the extension of the 2030 strategy, which was adopted right after the current leadership took power in late 2012. So this is an extension. Some document had to be adopted. Of course, the plan is ambitious. Well, at this point, it's difficult to say how successfully will it be implemented. But as long as there is a political will, as long as there is a streamlined and efficient leadership, well, we can expect this to be adopted. Well, at this point, I believe that we will need international partners for this strategy to be successful because, well, economic growth cannot be achieved without significant export-import modifications. But so far, it seems that within the government, within the leadership, which unfortunately lacks political diversity, there is a consensus that it will be will be successful. Obviously, there are general questions about whether there will be sufficient number of well-educated and professionally prepared personnel, the cadre, in order to implement this ambitious program. But, well, the have an ambition in education reform. Again, without going to the details, there are some questions about how this reform will be implemented, whether it will bring about intended results. But we see that there is ambition, and again, Georgia also wants to position itself as like important regional hub, because we see the transportation links, we see the mention of the Anaklia port, we see the mention of the cable, and the using of the Georgia renewable energy potential.
So, Professor Michelishvili, the government aims for 6 to 7% economic growth. What are the realistic prospects of achieving this given current global and regional economic conditions?
Well, I think it depends not only on Georgia, it depends on this overall regional calculus. I believe that right now, though this current peace process between Armenia and Azerbaijan, reconciliation might bring about tremendous regional results, regional results which go beyond the immediate region. I believe the current U.S. involvement, this the trip road and the forthcoming visit to both Armenia and Azerbaijan of Vice President and other important meetings with the senior members of the European bureaucracy and United States, gives hope that the region is on the radar of major powers. The relative proximity to big markets like China, India, and European Union, obviously, it is very promising. Georgia believes that it will also ride on the crest of this success of this regional integration, and therefore this could be achievable. But of course, it requires peace, stability, internal domestic stability, and regional stability as well.
So how does the Asian Development Bank's engagement, including transport and logistics projects, align with Georgia's long-term strategic objectives?
Well, since Georgia neighbors Azerbaijan, and this very important 50 million project is, first of all, it's big kudos and big praise to Azerbaijan, because it means that the country established itself as the regional leader, regional hub, and it has the trust of such a major financial entity as the Asian Development Bank. Since it is a region and there is already the excellent infrastructure, for already decades, the route from Azerbaijan through Georgia to Turkey, be it oil, gas, transportation, railway, it has been working. Again, maybe not perfectly, but well enough. And with the current trip underway and very, very hopefully materializing in the near future, I believe that the potential of the region will only increase, of course. So it is very welcome development.
So what role do foreign investments, including Asian Development Bank loans and EU partnerships, play in Georgia's long-term growth trajectory?
Well, as you know, these relations with the European Union at this point, are far, far from perfect. So there is hope that, certain constructive steps will be taken both on the part of Georgian leadership and European Union, and the relation will be restored. It will take certain diplomacy and political will on both sides. So I believe that the current status of Georgia being relatively isolated, Georgia wasn't present in Davos, as well as other important meetings where Armenia and Azerbaijan were present. So I think it will stimulate and somehow spur the Georgian leadership to take more constructive steps with the European Union. And on the part of the European Union, we also see the current, I wouldn't say the conflict will be an overstatement, and tense relation between Europe and United States maybe also will stimulate more flexibility on the part of the European Union towards this region and Georgia.
Professor Michelishvili, what are the main risks or obstacles that could hinder the implementation of a 2036 strategy?
I believe the main obstacle is the sufficient number of well-educated people, because, these are the personnel, they are the human capital, which at the end of the day, human and social capital, which at the end of the day makes the projects and make the strategies and programs successful. I believe that certain work has to be done in this particular regard. For instance, the ambitious healthcare reform. So Georgia is known for being actually the big hub in terms of education in healthcare, but unfortunately most of the good doctors, good physicians actually leave the country, and they should have economic incentives. Well, I think that the plan and program is ambitious. There are a number of hurdles, and well, I try to be optimistic. But I think that significant work and far greater efficiency than now will be required in order to implement it successfully.
Dr. George Michalishvili, thank you for joining us and sharing your valuable insights into Georgia's strategic planning and the broader regional connectivity agenda. We truly appreciate your time and expertise. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned to A News for more updates.